We are coming to you today to tell you the sun will shine again. That's the message. And that's what this is all about. I want you to hear one thing. God has no problems. He only has plans. In fact, I was reading in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19, and there's a passage that talks about God's ability to recreate and do something new. And he says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." When we hear of God doing a new thing, it's a little bit unsettling because we're used to the old. Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that our world has changed a lot over the last couple weeks. But we want to remind you, and it's our job to remind you, that God is about to do something big that you have never seen before. And I think if we can get our minds centered on what happens when God's people focus on His working hand, and we mute all the other voices, all the other worries, all the other concern, we are always going to be reminded that the sun will shine again. What God is about to do is something greater than what we could ever dream in His church, in the nation, and in the world. It says in Isaiah chapter 41, verse 13, it says, "For I, the Lord your God, will hold you with thy right hand, saying unto thee, fear not, for I will help you." Now, I like the English Standard Translation that. He says in the English Standard Translation, "I am the one who helps you." No matter what's going on and no matter where we find ourselves in this very moment of time, it's real important to remember that God's always been the only one that could ever help us. It's always been His hand at work that we seek when we are feeling like life is out of control, because it is. But it's always been that way. But it's God's hand that keeps us steady in the midst of uncertain circumstances. You remember the scene where Jesus and Peter decides that he's going to get the temerity to walk on the water and get out of the boat. That's a really dramatic passage of Scripture in the Gospels. But one of the things that's interesting about that is we see when Peter starts to look at the waves and look at the storm, he sinks. And Jesus reaches down and grabs him. And nothing can change the fact that Jesus grabs onto us, holds onto us in His strength, and saves us from trouble. And Jesus is here right now doing the same thing in this situation. You have to live in the moment, honestly. The only way that we're going to be able to move about this situation day to day, because it's not ideal, is we have to live in the moment. We can't focus on, tomorrow. We can't focus on what happens next week. We can't focus on the economy. We can only focus on now. And the question we want to ask ourselves is God holding on to me now? And according to Scripture, He absolutely is. He absolutely is. The sun will shine again. In the church, as Christians, we have to remember the promise, and it's a simple promise. We are not promised exemption from what goes on in this world, but what we are promised is perspective. Jesus gives us His perspective. God gives us His promise, His ability to look at things from a different way. And that perspective is what enables us to overcome, even when circumstances are unable to bear. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8, the Apostle Paul says, very aptly, "We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, yet we are not in despair." Trouble is absolutely going to happen. It's probable. But worry, fear, and defeat, that is optional. Jesus has given us the victory. The sun will shine again. And you have to keep your faith and your eyes fixed upon Him.